The year is 117 AD, and Rome breathes at the absolute zenith of her terrestrial ambition. Under the relentless, iron-willed campaigns of the Emperor Trajan, the boundaries of the civilized world have expanded to their breaking point. Wealth does not merely trickle into the capital. It roars through her gates like a seasonal deluge, drawing tribute from the rain-lashed, misty highlands of Britannia to the sun-baked, wind-scoured deserts of Mesopotamia. Yet, your existence bears no resemblance to that of the ordinary Roman. You do not draw breath in the suffocating, timber-framed tenements of the Subura, where the air is thick with smoke. The threat of fire is a daily terror, and desperate men brawl in the gutters for a handful of coarse grain. You belong to the senatorial elite, the untouchable 0.1% who sit at the apex of an empire. You do not merely inhabit Rome, you hold her in your palm. Through advanced structural reconstructions modeled on the ash-preserved villas of Pompeii, surviving aristocratic ledgers, and the intimate correspondence of Pliny the Younger, we can step behind the monumental cedar doors of the Patrician class to witness a single, meticulously orchestrated day. To live here is to command. A household that operates with the cold efficiency of a sovereign city. To navigate the lethal, unspoken protocols of high society alliances, and to transform even the inevitability of your own demise into a final, breathtaking exhibition of supreme power. The day commences at dawn, though no vulgar clamor from the cobblestone streets reaches your ears. In a metropolis of 1,000,000 souls, the rarest, most fiercely guarded luxury is absolute silence. You awake within the deep sanctuary of your cubiculum, a windowless, private bedchamber designed specifically to banish the outside world. The earliest tremors of daylight filter down through the compluvium, the grand rectangular aperture in the ceiling of the main hall, casting a pale liquid gold across the impluvium pool below. The only sound is the rhythmic, soothing murmur of water dancing against marble, in a city where hundreds of thousands must break their backs carrying heavy clay amphorae from public fountains. Running water flows directly into your private chambers, diverted from a dedicated branch of the imperial aqueduct. Securing such a privilege demanded a lifetime of political capital, immense systemic influence, and an obscene fortune in bribes. You do not lift a finger to clothe yourself. Manual labor of any kind is an indignity to a senatorial body. A specialized domestic slave, the vestiarius, stands motionless beside your couch. With practiced, silent movements, he drapes 6 meters of heavy, pristine white wool around your frame. This is the toga, the ultimate garment of geopolitical dominance. Yet, its true power lies in the border. Running along the edge of your tunic is the latus clavus, a broad, unmistakable stripe of Tyrian purple. Squeezed from the microscopic glands of tens of thousands of Mediterranean sea snails, this single band of color broadcasts your supreme rank to every man, woman, and child you encounter. A second slave steps forward, bearing delicate glass vials of imported oils. You are anointed not with the common olive oil of the Italian provinces, but with scents that have crossed oceans and deserts. The sharp, earthy aroma of spikenard harvested from the sheer cliffs of the Himalayas mingles with sweet cinnamon that has travelled for months by camel caravan and merchant galley. Before you have even crossed your own threshold, your morning grooming routine has consumed the wealth of 3 continents. As the 3rd hour after sunrise approaches, the fragile stillness of the morning dissolves, giving way to the monumental public theatre of Roman power. The great cedar doors of your domus groan open, and the world rushes into the atrium. This is the salutatio, a daily ritual of submission and dependency. Dozens of free-born yet impoverished Roman men, your clients, have been shivering outside on the cobblestones since the deep hours of the night. Their survival depends entirely upon your favor, and your authority depends entirely upon their numbers. You take your position in the tablinum, your official study, seated upon an elevated chair carved from solid ivory. The chamber is designed to overwhelm the senses. Columns of exotic, colored marble, quarried from the mountains of Egypt and Greece, flank the space, while the floor stretches out like an ocean of intricate mosaic tiles. In the shadowed corners of the room sit the solemn wooden shrines containing the imagines, highly realistic wax death masks of your illustrious ancestors. Their lifelike features stare down into the hall, silently but aggressively broadcasting the ancient, unbroken power of your family bloodline. Standing immediately behind your chair is your nomenclator, a highly educated slave whose entire existence is dedicated to an encyclopedic mastery of human names. As each client approaches the dais, the nomenclator leans down, subtly whispering the man's identity, pedigree, and specific business directly into your ear. You greet the client instantly by his personal name. The illusion of intimate, aristocratic friendship is an incredibly potent weapon. One desperate man steps forward to beg for your legal protection in a complex property dispute against a rival landlord. Another implores you for a small loan of silver denarii to keep his neighborhood bakery from being seized by creditors. A third simply extends a hollowed palm for the sportula, the daily handout of food or pocket change that keeps his family from literal starvation. It bears the outward mask of charity, but in reality, it is a cold, ruthless, and highly calculated geopolitical transaction. In exchange for these fragments of your wealth, these men become your political foot soldiers. They are your muscle in the streets. They will march to the forum and vote precisely as you dictate. They will seed positive rumors and loud praise throughout the crowded public baths. They will form a massive, aggressive physical entourage to encircle you whenever you walk through the city, ensuring that your rivals are physically shoved aside by the sheer volume of your human tide. Your true weight in the empire is not merely tallied in gold. It is measured by the depth of the crowd standing in your atrium. By late morning, the rabble is dismissed, and the actual high-stakes architecture of the empire is negotiated. You meet with your procurators, brilliant, highly educated freedmen who manage the aggressive expansion of your financial empire. Roman wealth at this apex is never passive. It is an active predator. Your rural steward details the winter olive yields from your sprawling latifundia estates in Campania. A chief accountant presents the lucrative rental ledgers from the rickety, 5-story insulae apartment complexes you own deep within the working-class slums. fragile wooden structures prone to catastrophic collapse, yet incredibly profitable. A maritime agent negotiates your stake in a new consortium of massive grain ships currently clearing the harbour of Alexandria. If those heavy hulls survive the treacherous Mediterranean seasonal storms, your capital multiplies exponentially. If they sink, you absorb the catastrophic loss without blinking. You never touch a sack of wheat or swing a carpenter's mallet, but your scratching styluses control the very lifeblood of the capital. Even the flesh and blood of your own family is treated as a strategic asset. At this altitude of society, marriage has absolutely nothing to do with affection. It is a calculated corporate merger. You spend the remaining hours of the morning locked in negotiations, bartering the future of your teenage daughter to the eldest son of a rival senatorial house. Elite bloodlines marry only elite bloodlines. To step outside this iron circle is to invite unforgivable social ruin. When her wedding day arrives, it will not be an intimate family affair, but a massive public spectacle designed to project stability. Your daughter will be draped in the flammeum, a heavy, saffron-colored veil that burns like flame. And in accordance with ancient, deeply symbolic Iron Age law, her hair will be parted using the cold tip of a celibate iron spear. She will be carried through the torchlit streets in a theatrical procession, physically merging two immense fortunes and securing a permanent voting bloc in the Senate for the next generation. By early afternoon, the oppressive heat of the Italian sun signals that it is time to venture out into the shifting currents of the city. Yet, a patrician of your immense dignity does not allow his feet to touch the literal mud of the streets. Wheeled transport of any kind is strictly forbidden within the city walls during daylight hours, as the ancient thoroughfares are far too narrow, and the swarming crowds too dense to navigate. You step past your threshold and ascend into a lectica, a magnificent, luxurious portable litter. This is essentially a cushioned bed of fine down, mounted upon long wooden poles, and completely enclosed by heavy curtains of imported Parthian silk. The entire apparatus is hoisted onto the broad shoulders of 8 massive, highly trained slaves, chosen with meticulous care so that their matching heights and uniform strength provide an unshakable, perfectly level ride. As you are carried through the labyrinthine streets, a vanguard of fierce bodyguards marches ahead of your litter, using heavy wooden staffs to physically cleave the masses of commoners, driving them into the gutters to clear a path for your progress. Inside this moving sanctuary, the silk curtains are drawn back just enough for the teeming city to catch a glimpse of the heavy gold rings glittering on your fingers, some set with deep emeralds and pristine pearls drawn from distant, conquered seas. Within this cradle of wealth, you can comfortably read Greek philosophy, dictate letters to a scribe, or sleep in absolute tranquility, entirely insulated from the deafening roar, the stench, and the filth of the million souls swarming beneath you. Your destination is the monumental baths of Trajan. This is not a venue for a brief wash, but rather the epicenter of elite social engineering and geopolitical strategy. The complex sprawls across 25 acres of prime imperial real estate. You do not enter as a solitary citizen. A small army of your domestic slaves follows in your wake, laden with thick Egyptian linen towels, curved iron strigils for scraping the skin, and fresh clay jars filled with ruinously expensive scented oils. The architecture itself is a staggering manifestation of Roman engineering. You walk beneath soaring vaulted concrete ceilings of such immense scale that their structural mastery will not be replicated anywhere in Europe for another 1,000 years. You undress and transition into the tepidarium, the warm room. Here, the very floors are heated from below by a subterranean hypercaust system, fueled by crews of slaves, stoking massive furnaces in the dark, while your eyes rest upon priceless Greek bronze statues looted from conquered eastern cities centuries ago. You are here specifically for the whispers that occur between the chambers. Through the rising steam of the caldarium, you cross paths with fellow senators and immensely wealthy equestrians. The political pulse of the world is taken in these heated waters. You speak in hushed, urgent tones about which figures are currently ascending in the favor of the Emperor Trajan, which lucrative provincial governorships in Asia Minor are about to become vacant, and complain bitterly about recent sumptuary laws attempting to curb aristocratic luxury spending, decrees that you and every other man in the steam entirely intend to ignore. While slaves massage rare oils into your muscles and scrape away the sweat of the afternoon, empires are carved up, fortunes are traded, and political alliances are sealed. As the late afternoon shadows begin to stretch across the stone monuments of the city, you return to your domus for the undisputed climax of elite Roman existence. The Cena, the formal dinner party. At this level of wealth, dinner is never merely a meal. It is a highly competitive, theatrical performance, engineered to demonstrate your absolute dominion over the natural world. You host the gathering within your magnificent triclinium. 9 carefully selected guests, powerful political allies, wealthy financiers, and influential court poets recline across 3 massive U-shaped couches. Romans of quality do not sit in chairs for formal banquets. You lounge elegantly on your left elbow, leaving your right hand entirely free to take the offerings of the servers. The room is illuminated by the warm, flickering glow of dozens of ornate bronze oil lamps. Before the guests even arrive, slaves have scattered a thick carpet of fresh, fragrant rose petals across the entire expanse of the mosaic floor. The menu is a carefully orchestrated display of imperial reach, a map of conquest rendered in meat and wine. The gustatio, the appetizer course, is brought forth with dramatic flair. You are served fresh, briny oysters that were harvested from the freezing, wild coasts of Britannia and shipped south alive in saltwater tanks, alongside dormice that have been fattened in dark clay jars, roasted to perfection and glazed with wild honey and poppy seeds. Then comes the main event. A procession of slaves enters in a slow, rhythmic cadence, presenting a massive silver platter that bears an offering of flamingo tongues and a whole peacock that has been roasted, and then painstakingly redressed in its own brilliant, iridescent feathers. You dine upon sea urchins pulled from the rocky waters of Sicily, and prized mullet fish that were swimming in your country, Villa's private saltwater ponds just hours before. The records of history suggest that dozens of rare exotic birds are routinely slaughtered simply to provide a single dish of delicacies for a single evening. Between the courses, the entertainment begins to unfold. A dancer from Syria performs an intricate, hypnotic routine, her translucent silk costume catching the lamplight as she moves. A hired poet recites verses specifically composed for the night, tracing your lineage back to mythological heroes. The wine flows without cessation, but this is no cheap vintage from a tavern corner. This is ancient, priceless Falernian. The clay amphorae are marked with the names of the very consuls who held power the exact year the grapes were harvested decades ago, and you do not consume it warm. In a staggering display of logistical wealth, the wine is mixed with pure white snow that has been rushed down from the peaks of the Apennine Mountains by a relentless relay of fast horses, wrapped tightly in straw to prevent it from melting in the summer heat. As your guests drink from delicate, hand-blown glass chalices and admire your library of imported Greek scrolls, the message is undeniably clear. Every single course demonstrates your taste, your wealth, and your terrifying ability to command resources from the furthest, darkest edges of the known world. Late into the night, the last of the guests are carried away in their silken litters. You walk alone into your open-air peristyle garden. The marble fountains murmur quietly in the dark, and the scent of crushed roses mixes with Mediterranean herbs. You stand at the absolute pinnacle of human history. The wealth concentrated within this single city will not endure forever, but tonight, surrounded by silent marble, and the gentle sound of stolen water, it feels entirely eternal. Even death itself is weaponized to display your status to the living. When you draw your last breath, your body will lie in state within the grand atrium for up to 7 days. A silver coin will be placed upon your cold tongue as payment for Charon, the ferryman of the underworld. Then begins the pompa, the spectacular, theatrical funeral procession that will wind through the very heart of the Roman Forum. You will not pass quietly from this earth. Your family will hire dozens of professional female mourners to wail, scream, and tear at their clothing in the streets. For the ancient logic dictates that the more blood and tears shed, the wealthier the deceased. Musicians will fill the stone corridors of the city with haunting melodies played on massive brass horns. Most incredibly, a troupe of actors will walk in the procession wearing the ancient, lifelike wax death masks of your ancestors, literally bringing the ghosts of your powerful lineage back to life to escort your body from the city gates. Your remains will be cremated outside the sacred walls, and your ashes will be entombed within a massive, elaborate stone monument lining the Appian Way. For centuries to come, every traveler, merchant, and soldier walking the great highway into the heart of Rome will be forced to look upon your monument, reading the name of a man who once owned the world. This was the existence of Rome's ultra-elite in the year 117 AD. It was a life defined by supreme privilege, ruthless social mechanics, and a level of unapologetic luxury that remains staggering even by modern standards. They utilized their homes, their strategic marriages, and their very meals to forge an empire of permanent influence. The marble eventually cracked, the grand columns fell, and the empire collapsed into the dust of history. But the architecture of their ambition, the precise way they designed their spaces to command respect and project power, still echoes in the halls of wealth today. History may be written by the victors, but it was lived by the people who commanded the wealth of the world.